Ah, yes. We're nearing the end of the summer, and thus fall will descend upon us. The return of pumpkin spice, warm colors, and as always, the final stretch of hype for a new Pokemon release.
But the hype is a little bit different this time around, as the new games this holiday season are taking Pokemon in a huge new direction. For the first time ever, Scarlet and Violet are bringing us a large, open-world game in which we can do not one, but 3 stories in any order that the player chooses. But with such a huge step forward, I'm sure there are plenty of fans who are worried about whether Game Freak can do it right or not. Now, me personally, I have full confidence in the developers' abilities to produce yet another amazing game in the series, but I'm not everybody. Yet.
Yeah! We all know that once this channel gets to 1 million subs that you'll officially become everybody and then I'll get to become a human again. Hooray for goals! Hooray for subliminally pushing everyone to subscribe! I like that you brought up that the extra level of hype is here since we're going to be taking our first foray into open world with Pokemon. It's something people have begged Game Freak to do with these games for over a decade now, and while this might not be the crazy visit every region ever game that fans have been asking for on the internet for what feels like 50,000 minutes, I think regardless of it not being on that large of a scale, it's still going to be big to see this concept come to fruition at all.
I concur. With that being said, I think it's not unreasonable to take a look at some other games in the open world genre to really get a grasp on what made them great and how Scarlet and Violet, and perhaps other main series games, could learn from them.
So let's talk all about that. But first, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say it. Welcome to Version Exclusive, Special Prime Directive and Collector Dexter Edition.
You know, if we constantly are saying these videos are special Prime Directive and Collector Dexter editions, then they're not going to be that special. Now, are they, Prime?
Well, fine! If you want to act like this is stupid to say now, then why don't you do the next video alone? Put your money where your dumb human mouth is!
Fine! I will!
Good. I can't wait for these people to watch you flounder! Anyway, let's get this video going for the people who are actually still here after our dumb interactions. We already established that this is the first time Game Freak is tackling a true open world with Scarlet and Violet, but I think it's sort of important to bring up how, in a way, Legends Arceus was definitely a bit of a beta run on that concept on a smaller scale.
Legends Arceus took more of a traditional Monster Hunter approach, with the game being centered around the hub town of Jubilife Village with a handful of large, open-world-ish areas where you would explore, catch Pokemon, and move on to the next area. Having all of the Pokemon out in the open just waiting to be captured while you roam around at your leisure was a great starting point for sure, but it was still linear in terms of progression, allowing you to unlock the different areas when you were deemed ready to by someone other than yourself. But even that was a huge step up from where this concept really started, being the wild area, Isle of Armor, and the Crown Tundra. Despite the problems people had with these locales, it's what they wanted, just expanded on and polished up a bit, which they got with Legends Arceus.
I have to imagine that a lot of the ideas that they acted upon with Sword and Shield, like the wild area, really stuck with the folks at Game Freak, enabling them to take things a step further with Legends Arceus, and now finally bringing us to a point with Scarlet and Violet where we are looking at a fully fleshed out open world. Naturally, Scarlet and Violet were in development for quite a while before Legends Arceus released, but it served as great proof of concept that the idea of open-world Pokemon can and will in fact most likely work. Obviously though, trying to make that big push into taking your long-established linear franchise and turning it into something like an open-world game will not come without its challenges.
You definitely have to consider whether or not to have level scaling, whether the stories end up intertwining or are completely isolated from one another, and, most importantly, does it truly let you play the game however you like, or are you kind of nudged in a certain direction as the ideal way to play? And that's just open world games in general. On the level scaling portion, we already have a bit of an idea of what that'll be like. Regarding gyms, the website states that you can purposefully seek out a stronger gym leader, implying that gyms will probably not be scaled to your current level or by the amount of badges that you have prior to facing them. But I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. Perhaps this means you can actually go out and catch those level 16 above Pokemon straight from the beginning of your adventure, and while they might not obey you 100% of the time, it will actually give you a fighting chance at taking on some of the harder bosses earlier than usual.
It honestly brings to my mind, right off the bat, Breath of the Wild. The most recent open-world game that truly blew me away with its sheer massiveness was that magnificent take on Hyrule, and I feel there's quite a bit with Scarlet and Violet that they can learn from. For instance, one of my fondest memories from playing Breath of the Wild for the first time was heading right to the castle where Calamity Ganon was hanging out. Now, I didn't actually go and fight him, but I did find myself in the castle's dungeon leaping around and taking on some bad guys. While doing so, I ended up finding Link's iconic Hylian shield hidden away. I could instantly feel the weight of finding such an awesome item that early in the game, and I feel like the developers did a pretty good job in conveying the enormity of coming across something so important so early on. How cool would it be if you could find a Master Ball super early on in Scarlet and Violet by traversing a difficult area of the game right when you begin? Sure, there may be strong Pokemon there that you could end up throwing yourself at over and over, but regardless of that, there's always going to be some sort of plan you can come up with to get in and get out with that ultimate prize.
Another thing that Breath of the Wild did really well was how it dealt with its multi-layered stories. Like Prime said, you can wake up from your coma, do your tutorial stuff, and then immediately head out to beat the final boss. Or you can take in everything the world has to offer, learning more about the threat ahead of you, everything that led to this point, and the demise of the champions and their divine beasts. When the player actually decides to do all of that, it's insanely rewarding and gives you a real solid connection to the characters and the world. Which is probably why so many open world games are trying to mimic Breath of the Wild despite it not being anywhere near close to the first game that's gone open world. In fact, Skyrim is similar to what we're talking about in this regard. Having multiple storylines that are essentially the main story, the lore for the main story, all of the characters that inhabit the world, and even one of your own. Like, think about all of the classes you can be in games like Skyrim or even Elden Ring. It would just be the bee's knees if we could be a specialist of a certain type of Pokemon and get bonuses in-game for that, truly shaping the game around the kind of trainer that you want to be, rather than just being a one-size-fits-all kind of a trainer.
Those are salient points, and honestly continues to prove that Breath of the Wild is the blueprint all studios should look at when it comes to turning their series into an open-world adventure. Nobody's ever really done it well since. Oh, speaking of great open-world games, how about the Red Dead Redemption series? Something I really like from those games is the fact that your actions follow you around. You become noteworthy in towns you may have never visited before thanks to the honor system, with better prices at stores and drop rates on loot being improved when you have positive honor, though you don't see as many great rewards for allowing your honor to get down too low. I'm not too sure if Game Freak could come up with a system that could see different things happen with your character's reputation based on what you do and don't do in Scarlet and Violet, but it's something that I think could make the games a lot more interesting from both a story and gameplay standpoint.
Yeah, as much as the fans would like the option, I don't think Game Freak would be crazy on the idea of letting your character go down a dark path, like joining the evil team or using counterfeit money to steal from the various vending machines around the region. So I definitely see them sticking more along the lines of, hey, you helped clear, let's say Team Amargo out of here. Here's the key to the town. With that key enabling you to get more perks on your adventure. But a big thing they'll need to be careful of is not just having the world be open for the sake of it. Plenty of open world games can be vast and wide, but have very little to do in them. Of course, even Breath of the Wild has large areas of empty space, but even those will have little things to do, like finding a Korok, or taking on a member of the Yiga clan, or maybe even just fighting a really tough Lionel. I think it'll be very important to make sure the world is full of little things to do, so you always have something to do on your adventure.
Speaking of open world games that have little to no empty space at all, how about Marvel's Spider-Man? It's literally just Manhattan, so it'd be hard to have any real open space, but they do a great job of making everything feel populated and recognizable. It's obviously different, as our new region in Scarlet and Violet is something we don't have any preconceived notions about, mostly. The little thing we do know all about are a lot of the Pokemon themselves. I think Spider-Man succeeds in one thing majorly that a lot of open world games fail at, truly bringing its world to life. It's chock full of references to Spider-Man's many opponents and adventures, which is something Game Freak should look to incorporate into their own open world. The opportunity to see Pokemon act upon generations of Pokedex entries and lore. Imagine running up on a Seviper and a Zangoose, throwing down, only to somehow find yourself in a double battle with them. Or perhaps a group of Clefairy meeting up to dance under the moon together, sort of like in Legends Arceus. The Pokemon world is filled with so many Easter eggs and references already. The thought that we could see so many of them in the Paldea region in action is enough to make me want to travel to every last corner of the map, just to experience them and find as many little secrets as possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely an area where Pokemon can shine and really separate themselves from all the other open world games. Utilize the character and personality you've built up for all of your creatures over the years and make the world feel alive. The Pokemon world is filled to the brim with chaos, so lean into those strengths. I guess that's the biggest thing here. No matter what, people love Pokemon. Whether they shake up the formula suddenly or slowly evolve it over time, people will love what it is at its core. Exploring a world filled with powerful monsters and saving it from people that want to fill it with even more chaos. As long as you have that, the great characters they introduce, and lots of little things to do after you've fully beaten the game, then you're pretty much good to do whatever you like. And as long as they avoid the negative things we spoke about here, I truly believe Scarlet and Violet could be contenders for some of the greatest games in the series.
Well, I've got to say, Dex, if nothing else, we definitely had a lot to say about open world games today. I mean, I think the fact that we could even make this video and had things to talk about just proves the point that it makes tons of sense that now is when Game Freak decided to make this move to a different way of playing. Open world games are all the rage right now, and they're going nowhere.
And to invoke a classic phrase, if you can't beat them, join them. And if any series was going to join the open world craze, it had to be Pokemon. I get some people may still have their reservations about how it'll all turn out, but I feel very confident in Game Freak's abilities to provide a very fun experience. But what do you all think? Are you worried about the open world aspect of Scarlet and Violet, or are you fully on board the hype train towards November 18th? Definitely let us know in the comments below, as we're really interested in hearing other fans' opinions on this.
I'm super interested to know what the good people think, so I'm glad you asked them to let us know. You're just so good at doing everything. I can't wait to see how you handle doing the next video without me. I can't wait to spend my week in a controlled climate with enough water for me to swim in, but not get sick of it, since I'm a Kabutops. A Kabutops, named the Prime Directive.
And I'm the man who ruined his life with pride, Collector Dexter.
And he will see you next time.